Okay, I wanted to give you a quick review or my thoughts on the Fenttik X9 ACE Air Inflator. I was looking for a pump to take with me on my bike touring, bike packing, multi-day bicycling trips. And I noticed that there's a lot on the market that are much smaller than this one. But one of the things I liked about this one, the reason why I went with it, because I'm going to use it for bike packing rather than just on my daily rides on my road bike, is you can set a PSI on this and it'll inflate to that PSI and then automatically stop, and it'll show you what the current PSI is of your tires when you connect it. So it's got your built-in tire gauge right into the pump, so I like that feature. I did purchase this off Amazon. The price when I bought it 3 months ago was $49.97, and then I also purchased a case for it. So when you purchase this, you get the pump, you get a paper manual, and you get a USB-C charging cord for it. When I went to put it in my cart, it said people that purchase this also purchase this case. So I also purchased this case for it. This was an add-on. This was $13.99. And what I'll do is I'll put the Fenttik in the case along with the charging cable and the manual. And then I put this in the top bag on my rear rack of my Trek Checkpoint to take with me on my trips. So a quick overview on this. It is a little heavy, I think. It's at 388 grams. I weighed it out, which is roughly 13.68 ounces. I don't think I would put this in my rear cycling jersey when I'm riding daily on my road bike. I don't think I'd want something that heavy hanging out. While it would fit in one of my pockets in the back of my cycling jersey, I just don't think I'd want something that heavy back there. I think for my road cycling where I'm just going out for the day, whether it be a 25-mile ride, a 50, 100-mile century ride, I'm just going to stick with my normal setup, which is a spare tube CO2 cartridge and then the CO2 cartridge adapter, and use that for my road bike. But for my multi-day bike packing trips on my Checkpoint, this is perfect. I've used this already on 4 trips and it's really worked well. It's helped me out. Typically what I'll do is in the morning, when I first leave the house on my trip, I'll just use my floor pump to get my tires to the correct pressure when I leave. But once I get out on the road and I stop each night, when I get up the next morning, I like to make sure I set my tire pressure to the same pressure every morning when I'm leaving on my rides. And it's real easy to hook this up, turn it on, hit the power button, and have it top it off to that pressure, and it only takes a few seconds to do that. So to turn this on, you just press and hold this button right here, and what it'll do is the very first time you turn it on, it'll be set to 0 PSI. Once you set it to a certain PSI, it remembers that PSI, so as you hook it up each day to inflate your tires, it remembers that PSI and it'll inflate it to them. You've got a plus and a minus sign here where you can increase or decrease the PSI setting on it. And then once you get it hooked up, it can hook up to both Presta and Schrader valves. This valve will untwist, come off, and then you just flip it around, twist it back on to go to Schrader. By default, it comes set up to work on your Presta valve. And then once you're hooked up, you just press this button again, it'll start inflating the tire. To turn it off, just press and hold. It turns it off. You saw there was a little light indicator down below the plus minus sign. If that's white, then you have 50% or more of your battery left. If it's orange, you have somewhere between 20 to 50% of your battery. And if it's below 20%, that light below here will turn red to let you know you're getting low on the battery. You can get a lot of charges on this. I haven't run it all the way down, but on one of my ride days during one of my last adventures, little over 100-mile ride, I had 4 flats. So I had 3 flats in the rear and 1 flat in the front. So I had to fill up 4 of my 700C by 42 gravel tires that at that time I was running at 42 PSI. It filled up all 4 and I still had battery left, and that was for the day. So basically I charged it up the night before, got up that morning of the trip, topped off my air pressure in each tire, which took a few seconds to do. And then I used this for 4 flats, plus I had a self-inflicted wound where when I put this adapter on the valve stem, I screwed it down too tight. You just want to get it on there and get it snug. One of the times, it was later in the day, I was getting frustrated, it was getting hot out, and I torqued this thing down on the valve stem. Well, after it filled it up to 42 PSI, and I turned it off, I went to unscrew it, and it was on there so tight that it actually pulled the valve stem out of the valve core, let all the air out of the tire, of course. Then I had to take the valve stem out of here, screw it back in the valve core, tighten it down, reconnect, and pump it back up. So it actually filled up 5 tires that day. And by that time, it got down to orange. But I still had, you know, if I'd had more disasters that day, it still would have had battery to fill that up. I said, I've used this on 4 trips, 4 multi-day trips so far over the last 3 months, and had no issues with it except for that me over tightening on that one time. So just if you use this, you just need to get it where it gets snug. You don't want to really torque it down. Just get it where it gets snug, and then you're good, and then fill it up. I'll show you later after this video. I'll take this out and hook it up to my tire and just top it off so you can hear what it sounds like and how the inflation process works. Your USB-C charging cord, it plugs right into the side, so right there's your charge port. And then also on the back, it has instructions on how to flip this if you want to switch between Presta and Schreda. So if you want to switch between the different tire valve types, it has that in there. Okay, as far as some stats on this unit weighs 388 grams. I put it on my scale, and that translates to roughly 13.68 ounces. So like I said earlier, it's, I think, a little on the heavy side to be just taken around as your daily pump. I'm going to stick to CO2 cartridges on my road bike when I just go out for a daily ride. But this makes a lot of sense and works great for me for my bike touring or bike packing type adventures. The case itself, it weighs 101 grams. And that's roughly 3.56 ounces. I'm going to keep putting the manual, the charging cable, and this in the case and putting this in my top back rack bag on my checkpoint and using it there. But if I find us getting too much stuff packed into that rear bag, then I may start leaving this at home and just taking this by itself with the charging cable. Because one of the things I like is in order to turn this on, you actually have to press and hold the power button. So it's not like it can really accidentally get turned on by something just nicking the power button, because you have to press and hold it. Now, I did a couple time tire pressure tests on my gravel bike with the 700C by 42 tires and completely deflated the tire, then filled them back up. To get to 42 PSI, it took 1 minute and 58 seconds using this pump. And to get to 60 PSI, which is what I use in my touring tires now, which are also 700C by 42, it took 3 minutes and 2 seconds to go from completely empty up to 60 PSI. So that's as far as the time that you can expect to fill your tires up with. So far, like I said, I've had it for 3 months, haven't had any issues with it aside from me over tightening it that one time and it pulled the valve core out, valve stem out of the valve core. So just be careful with that. One other thing I did notice is one time I was using this in about 3 o'clock in the afternoon out in direct sunlight. I had no shade whatsoever, and I couldn't read the LED display without putting my hand over it and blocking the sun. And then once I did that, I could see the display. But by just looking at it with the direct sunlight hitting it, it kind of drowned out the display where you couldn't see it. Okay, so that pretty much wraps up what I wanted to tell you about this pump. I really like it. I'd buy it again. I wouldn't buy it if I was just a road cyclist, just wanting something to carry with me on my daily rides. But for bike touring, bike packing type things, yeah, I really like this and I'm going to stick with it. What I'll do now is I'll go out to my bike and I'll record a short video of what it sounds like, and you can see how it works on the bicycle when you're flating things. So that's a wrap as far as me going over this, and then I'll move to the other video. Okay, so I've got this hooked up to the valve, just fit it on there. I'm going to press and hold the power button now to power it on. And right now, the last time I used it, I set it for 60 psi. It says the tire right now is set to 54. So I'm just going to press the button once. You know, here, once it hits that PSI that you've set it to, it just stops automatically, and then you just press and hold the power button to turn it off. So yeah, it works really well on this. I'm happy with it. It's not super loud. It does make a little bit of noise, but it's not like annoyingly loud or anything. It's fairly quiet. So the only two things that I've run into with this is one of the days when I was getting my flats, it was really bright and sunny out. The sun was directly overhead, and I had a hard time reading this LED readout on here. I actually had to put my hand over it to create some shade, then I was able to read it. But in direct sunlight, it was hard to read this. That was the only issue I had with it. The other thing is if you over tighten right here where you put it on the valve stem, if you over tighten it, I did have it pull the valve core out one time. So you just want to get it where it's snug, and that's it, and then stop tightening it down. But overall, yeah, I'm happy I got this. Definitely worthwhile. Perfect for what I'm using it for, which is for my multi-day biking adventures. If you're doing something like that, then yeah, it's worth it. If you're thinking about getting this to put in the back of your cycling jersey just for your daily rides, I think it's too heavy for that. I wouldn't use it for that. But putting it in the top bag on my back rack of my bicycle, perfect for that. So hopefully you found this useful and got something out of it. Bye.